How's it going, everyone? This is Josh from Football Talk with JB, and I'm joined by.
Hey, I'm Shea Monroe, offensive coordinator, tight ends coach at Oxford High School in Oxford, Alabama.
And Oxford, obviously a very successful program, and well, there definitely has to be an advantage to being able to coach some great players such as Mason Mims and Nick Richardson uh, on offense for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I can't take any credit for the development of those guys. They were really good players when I got here, and obviously Coach Adams and Coach Fuller and all the guys that have coached those guys the last 4 years have done a great job. Of developing them, and those two kids amongst a lot of other kids on our team are extremely hard workers that have spent a lot of time trying to get better as players.
Yes, sir. And I guess usually I like to start with the offensive line. How is the offensive line looking?
Well, I mean, they're it's a veteran group. That's the thing you can say about our team this year. They're a veteran group, and Jeremy Tapley's our offensive line coach, and he's outstanding, man. And he's been at Oxford for 20 plus years, and he's he's really developed those guys, and like I said, it's a veteran group. We got Rashad Cunningham's our left tackle. He's a 4-year starter. We got Jackson Newton, our left guard. He's started for a few years now. Our center is Jaden Young, and he's a 2-year starter, but he's just a junior. And then we got at right guard, we got Bryson Sanderson, who is a sophomore. Who's, he's a big kid. He's every bit of 6'5", 305, and he's a multiple year guy. And then we got Markevian Conley at right tackle, and he's a 3 to 4 year starter as a senior. And so, I mean, it's a veteran group, and those guys take a lot of pride in it. But Coach Tapley does a great job of building relationships with those guys. I mean, offensive line's a special position. It's a position where they don't get the credit, but they're the hardest working guys on the field on the offensive side of the ball. So they've done a fantastic job this year keeping our quarterback upright. And there's no secret if you watch us. I mean, we're going to kind of go as they go. And you can say that for a lot of teams, but more so with us because of our quarterback and how important he is to our offense.
Yes, sir. And that's definitely a great point you bring up as the offensive line being the most important part, but they don't get the credit they deserve because everybody's watching the quarterback and the receivers and the running backs. But I've played at one point every position on the offensive line, so I definitely have a very big appreciation for the offensive line.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's the most selfless people on the field. They're servant leaders, and they're guys that are just great people overall.
Yes, sir. And that brings me to the skill position player. I mentioned Nick Richardson. Obviously, he's a very, very talented receiver, and Mason Mims at quarterback committed to Louisville. But who are those other guys that that are helping y'all be so successful?
Yeah, I mean, those two are outstanding in their own right. We got Jalen Taylor, who's right now is leading all of 6A in receiving, and he's electric with the ball in his hands, and he's just an extremely hard worker. He's one of those kids you're not going to hear him, you're just going to see him and how hard he works, and he's a great teammate. He celebrates the success of others. You got DK Wilson, who's a 4-year guy who plays in the slot for us and plays in the backfield with Caleb Wynn. Caleb's having a great year for us at running back. He's a really tough guy and just gets those tough yards between the tackles. And then you got Kanan Bozeman out there at the Z, who provides a lot of length and he can run a little bit too. So I mean, look, we're very talented in receiving corps, and then we got Andre Ford who comes in and he's going to be a really good player too. He's a young guy right now, but he's got some things to him that really help our team. But overall, it's like I said, it's a very veteran group, and I walked into a really good situation This being my first year with Coach and with these guys, and I'm very thankful for how they've taken to me and kind of my style. And man, I can't say enough good things about the kids. More importantly, the coaching staff too. They've been awesome, all the way around, and just a bunch of really good dudes.
Yes, sir. And you mentioned being a tight ends coach as well. Do you guys are your tight ends more involved in the passing game, or or is it more important for them to be blockers in the running game and the and on screen passes as well?
Yeah, I mean, we try to be multiple in what we do, and I mean, our tight ends have to do a lot of things. Our tight ends is a very important position to us, and we got a freshman, Bo Mims, who Bo is guy who's kind of got thrown into the fire and has done a nice job for us. And then we got Justin Pham, who comes in and does a nice job as well. They're kind of two completely different players, but Ja'Kai Williams, and I mean, the thing I'll say about our room, the tight ends room, I mean, they're very supportive of each other, and I'm very thankful for that, because that's not the way it is sometimes. You get, well, this guy's getting more reps than me, this guy's getting, I don't have to worry about that in our room. They're very supportive of each other. They try to help each other as much as possible. So, we try to be very multiple on offense, and our tight ends are very important to what we do.
Yes, sir. And I know you're an offensive coordinator and tight ends coach, but I like to talk about defense and special teams as well. So who are those guys on defense that are big contributors as well?
Well, I mean, that's Coach Cochran and the staff over there do a really great job, and that's a very veteran side of the ball too. Obviously everybody knows about Keenan Britt.
Yes.
Defensive lineman. He's coming to South Carolina, and he's a junior, and Keenan's a great player. And then you get guys like Xavier Endicott, who's filled in, done a nice job, and a linebacker, you got Des Whitson, J.S. Fleming, you got James Tapley, Deshaun Trammell, and then I mean, all those guys are really good players who do a really good job. And then the secondary, you got Emilio English, Sedge Wyman's guy's a four-year starter guy, and then you got J.J. Robinson, and then at corner, and DK Wilson, who I mentioned earlier, comes in and plays some corner too. He's done a good job, and you got Marcus Lawler and Kamari English, and I mean, you got a bunch of just really good players, high school. You got a mix of some guys that are kind of veteran guys, and then you got some kind of youth back there too. So, I mean, it's kind of a, mixed bag. And, I mean, look, our defense does a great job. They've done a great job of keeping us in games and getting stops when we need to. And man, just it's been a blessing, man. Special teams-wise, we got, we're kind of young at the kicking position. Eli Pesnell is our field goal kicker, and he's done a nice job this year. He's 5 for 5 field goals, and he's made every extra point. So, can't ask much more than that. And then we got Felipe Heon, who does our kickoff stuff, and he's an 8th grader, so he's done a nice job of that. And I mean, Coach Gilbert does Darius Gilbert does our special teams, and he does a really good job of that too.
Yes, sir. So y'all are fairly young in the kicking game.
Yeah, we are.
Well, that's a good thing, because that means y'all are going to have those guys for a few years.
Absolutely.
So next, I want to get into the. Well, you've already mentioned a lot of the staff, but just take a minute to praise your staff that's doing such a fantastic job.
Well, I mean, look, I'll just say this, I'm very fortunate, Coach, I think when people say, well, you're the offensive coordinator, we're like, look, this is the deal. This is Coach Adams' offense, and he calls the plays, and he does a great job of it, and that's the way it needs to be, because in my opinion, Sam Adams is one of the best play callers in the state, arguably. Having been with him, obviously for this short amount of time, and man, he's just fantastic. And you got Jordan Fuller over there, coaches our wide receivers, and him and Dawson Green do a very good job of working with those guys. And Jeremy Tapley, who I mentioned, obviously does our offensive line. Him and Cole Wallace, who Cole was the offensive line coach at Lincoln before he came to us, and he does a good job of assisting Coach Tapley. And you got Ahmad Duramus, who coaches our quarterbacks, and Coach Duramus is a a former college quarterback at Tuskegee, does a really good job. Marte Wyckoff coaches our running backs, and he's awesome, and does a really good job with those guys too. So man, look, we're very fortunate here. To be under Coach Adams has been a blessing. I've been under some really, really good coaches, and Coach Adams is just he looks at the game a lot different than a lot of people do, and just kind of getting to be under him and just listen to the things he does and watch the things he does and how he articulates things to the kids, and he just makes it simple for them, man. And has been a blessing to me as a coach, but he's just really values time with his family, which is important for me. I have a wife and 2 young kids, so that's important to me. But I just can't say enough good things about our staff and work we put in, and kind of we all want to execute the same vision, and that's the vision of the head coach.
Yes, sir. And so I do want to get in that game against Central Carrollton. Obviously, like with the state of Georgia, you've got the different rules and stuff about where they can play. They do start the regular season a week earlier, but they also can play 1 or 2 scrimmage games before the season starts. I can't remember if it's 1 or 2, but what kind of does that kind of help with the preparation when you've already got film from 2 or 3 games from a team before you've played your first game?
Yeah, I don't think it hurts for sure. It's kind of a double-sided coin because you figure with all the padded camps and the OTAs and stuff they get to do over the summer, and we get to do OTAs and competition stuff too, but we're not in pads. So you figure okay, their kids, conditioning wise, will be a little bit more ahead of us, and just the physicality part of it you worry about too, because heck, they've been knocking heads all summer. And like you said, they get in Georgia. If you do a spring, you get the spring plus 1 fall scrimmage. If you choose not to do a spring, you get 2 fall scrimmages. So I'm not sure what Central did. I think they did a spring and then just had one scrimmage against Heard County. But man, they were a really good. They were a really good team. It was a really good challenge for us out of the bat and out of the gate, and we were down 14 at halftime, and we'd been moving the ball extremely well. We'd had a bunch of yards at halftime, but we'd only had I think 14 points maybe at halftime, and thankfully our guys were able to step up and make a lot of plays and in the second half, and we were able to pull that one out. Mason obviously had a huge game, but Caleb Wynn, our running back, rushed for 170 yards that night too. Mason threw for 487, which I think people thought was a typo when we first put it in. But he was very surgical that night. Our offensive line did a really good job of keeping him upright. And I'm telling you, man, if you give him time, it's going to be hard because we're just we're very blessed to have talented guys playing the skill positions. And when you put that together with a guy who's obviously got a howitzer for a right arm, that makes for good things happening for your offense.
Yes, sir. And lastly, I want to get into, I know you guys got a pretty big game this coming up Friday, a non-region game. Well, today's Friday, but tonight y'all got a pretty big non-region game against Helena, who was a very successful program themselves.
Yeah.
Anything that jumps off film about, without giving away too much, obviously, anything that kind of jumps off film about them?
They're really talented, and they're plenty good enough. If we don't play like we're capable of playing, they're plenty good enough to beat us. Richie Busby's a really good coach, and he's got a lot of veteran guys on staff over there. He's got Jim Elgin, who's former head coach, running the defense and the offense, and you got Don Dover, who's offensive line, coaching offensive line. He was a college offensive line coach for a while, and former head coach at Fultondale doing offensive line. So they're very veteran coaching staff, and guys do a really good job. Their players do a really good job of executing their game, and it's going to be a challenge for us. It's one of those things when you look at our schedule. There's really no hiding from anybody. You got to go out there and you got to give it your best every Friday night for sure.
Absolutely, and you guys obviously play in a very challenging region. Of course, you got Clay Chalkville and you've got Mountain Brook. Those are kind of the two everybody's going to talk about. But Huffman's a team that's getting better. Pale City's a team that's getting better. Pinson Valley, they're kind of in a rebuild, but that's not a team you can overlook because they've always got a lot of talent. Shades Valley as well, so a lot
Yeah,
of
and I mean,
tough
yeah,
teams in that region.
we've already been through 3 region games, and none of them been easy. And you look at the final scores at some of those, and Shades Valley, us was. I think the final was like 45-21, but I mean, Shades Valley and us at halftime was 14-14. They had a great plan and did a good job of executing their plan. And thankfully, in the second half, we were just able to kind of, make some plays and get some stops and stuff. And then, Pinson, I mean, really, we didn't play our greatest game that night against Pinson. I mean, they did a really good job putting pressure on the quarterback, and we just, the score is kind of deceiving from how that game actually was. And then, had a big win against Mountain Brook last week. Once again, down 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. And our defense pulled through and made a lot of key stops when we needed them to get stops. And, we were able to make some plays and put it in right there at the end. And Coach Adams went for 2. And we were lucky enough to get that 2-point conversion. Obviously Mountain Brook does an extremely good job. I don't know if there's a team in the state that gets more out of their kids than Mountain Brook does, honestly. And that's year in, year out.
Yes.
Obviously this game with Helena, we still got Pell City next week, and that's a big rivalry game. And we know we're going to get their best shot. And then Clay Chalkville, obviously, very good team, 6A state champ last year. And they're, I mean, Coach Floyd's a really good coach, and they got some really good coaches on that staff. And obviously they're going to have good players. And Coach Bivens doing a good job at Huffman, definitely improved from last year. And then you couple that in the fact of we got to go to Florence week 10 for our last non-region game. So we got to make a 3-hour road trip up there. But, that's why you come to Oxford is to play in, games that matter and big-time football games everywhere.
Yes, sir, absolutely. And, well, Coach, I don't want to keep you too long because I know it's game day, but I appreciate you coming on for the interview. And good luck tonight and good luck on the rest of the season as well.
Hey, Josh, I appreciate you having me, man. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir, and I'm glad to have learned a lot about Oxford today, and I'm definitely going to have to watch that Central Carrollton and that Mountain Brook game on NFHS Network later.
Yeah, well, it's 2 good ones, so.
Yes, sir. All right, Coach, have a good day.
You too, thank you.
All right, yes, sir. All right, y'all, that was Coach Shea Monroe. He's the offensive coordinator at Oxford. Oxford, obviously a very successful program, and hey, look, I was glad to have him on. I appreciate you coming on, Coach, and I look forward to seeing how y'all do the rest of this year. That Oxford's going to be contending for a 6A state title this year, most definitely. And with that being said, thank y'all for watching. Peace out, everybody.